Okay, here's today's problem. This is not a thing that you want to see on your dashboard. As you see, there's a picture of a car with an arrow underneath and it says visit workshop, and it's suggesting in fact that that's to do with the suspension. So we go to the iCarSoft Diagnostics. The suspension seems like a good place to look. In there we can read the fault code, and it says it's current, and it's the Airmatic pressure release valve open circuit. So that's where we'll be looking today. A bit of googling will turn up the fact that the pump is located in the inside, near side front wing, which means you've got to take the wheel and wheel arch liner off. Now, I have only recently acquired this car, fairly recently, and I've never had the front wheel off, and I discover that the front wheel's been done up by probably by an over enthusiastic fitter with an impact wrench, and I can't undo these nuts, and indeed if I'd had a puncture by the roadside it would have been completely impossible to remove this with the tiny little wheel brace that they give you. So I'm going to put a long tube on this and free them off. Okay, so that's how you get over tight wheel nuts off. It turns out the locking wheel nut is fortunately not too tight, otherwise that could be a real problem. But this is an issue that is worth checking on your car. In fact, I'll be going around and correctly torquing all the wheel nuts. The wheel is now off, and I like to put the wheel underneath the sill just to provide some added support. And we've got an axle stand back there supporting the main weight of the car, but we've still got the jack holding it up as well, so we've got basically three levels of support, which means the car isn't going to fall down. And under the wing we have to start this wing should be behind the wing rather than in front, and we have a fairly impressive collection of missing fittings, as those nylon nuts support it, and there should be some studs elsewhere, so we may be finding ourselves heading to the Mercedes dealer to get some of the correct fittings. There's the wheel arch liner removed. We should have needed to undo two 8mm headed self-tapping type screws that go in there and in there, and we should have needed to remove a number of 10mm plastic nuts like those, except that a number of them are missing. We should have needed to remove two rivets, I can just of that sort, where you pull out the middle and then the rest of it comes out, but again they're missing, so there's quite a few fittings missing, which makes you wonder. However, having done that, we then find the Airmatic pump, and there it is, and the first thing you notice is that the wires are broken to the plug. So this, if I can get the focus right, So that should be connected, and it isn't. So that's where we'll be directing our attention, but I also notice that there's a hose here that comes from some sort of filter that's split. So we have some interesting things to investigate. The idea with these nylon rivets is that you pull the centre, you pry that out, the centre, and then it allows that area to shrink down to go back through the hole. Very clever, but a real pain when you're trying to take them apart. This hose runs from the filter to the Airmatic pump, and basically it's split at both ends, so any sort of air might have been getting into the air suspension system. I don't know if it's just me, but I often find it hard to tell which bit of the plug comes out and whether you have to lift the tab or press the tab in or whatever. But basically on this one, which goes to the pump, you have to lift this tag and it lifts it over this. If I can get it in focus, there's a little tag there that it lifts over. The plug that holds the pressure release valve wires on, the ones that are broken, is a little bit simpler to get off. And you just press here and it lifts it up, and then you can slide it off. Now, I don't need to remove the pump, given that I've removed that plug that comes out of there, but I want to see what other horrors I might find. And the pump is held on by 3 nuts. It's rubber mounted to stop the vibration. There's one of them, they're 10mm. There's another, and there's one at the front which would be pretty inaccessible if it wasn't for the fact that there's this convenient flap here, which I assume is for the changing of the driving light bulbs, and you can reach the 3rd nut from there. The air hose is removed with a 10mm open ender. May have some pressure in it, but it just bleeds off. There's the pump. I know from the service records this pump has been replaced, so I'm slightly surprised to see it's been replaced with a genuine Mercedes one. But there is a name on the bottom, the name Lucas, which strikes fear into the heart of those of a certain age who had to deal with their products from a while ago. The problem now is how to repair this plug. You have a wire with an element of red going to number 2, and that's difficult to see. I think the wire that's fully black goes to number 1. I've been shopping to the Mercedes garage, and I've got myself a new hose, which was about £2.70. I've got a couple of these wretched plastic rivet things, wherever they are, there they are, which are about £1.70 each, and I got a couple of these bolts that help secure the wheel arch lining. I did actually order the nylon nuts as well, the 10mm nylon nuts, but they actually supplied me 2 lots of these bolts rather than that, which wasn't very helpful. But I won't worry about that too much. I also bought these, which are devices that enable you to take the pins out of plugs like this. So I've removed these pins, but while I was waiting for those to arrive, I actually bought a replacement plug from eBay that was about £5. And if you look carefully on the plug, I don't think it will pick it up, but there is a number on there, and you can look for that number and find these replacement plugs. I was going to buy it from Merck, but Merck said that it wasn't available without the wiring loom, and changing the wiring loom will be a much larger job. Obviously it joins onto the main loom somewhere, but I don't know where. So what I'm going to do is fit this. I'm going to start off by replacing this hose. Comparing the old with the new, it's pretty clear that the old one has had a hard time, has been cut back during its life to lengthen its endurance, but it's been wrapped with tape, and in general it seems a shame when the new part only costs £2.70, but you're not always close to a Mercedes garage. What we've done is stripped the ends of the broken wires, put some heat shrink sleeving on there, and then we're going to bring these in, solder them together, put the heat shrink over the top and shrink it with an air gun. So here we go on the soldering. It amuses me actually that I got this solder about 40 years ago, and I've still got loads left. There we go. And now we put the heat shrink over the top and go in with a heat gun. It's going to get noisy. That's it, 2 decent connections. So we reconnect the plug. Click. Click. And then we'll have a think about how to support these so that if that was vibration rather than rats, we don't get the problem again. I've just gone for a cable tie around the main cable, and when the pump bounces up and down, it reduces the amount of vibration on these wires. So I think that will do. If we go back in the car and switch on the ignition, we find that we're no longer required to visit the workshop, and we no longer have a picture of the car with an arrow underneath. And if we go to the Diagnostics, and read the fault codes, it's a bit difficult to do one-handed. The very satisfactory situation that the open circuit to the Airmatic pressure release valve is a historic error, so it is now gone. So we can clear that error and we shouldn't see that nasty picture of the car with the arrow underneath again.